Hello, this is Mad Cat, the angry egalitarian, and welcome to another edition of Boobs and Dicks Smash the Matriarchy. As always, I am Dick.
I'm Boobs.
And we have a very special show for you today. Now, I do want to apologize. We did have a show planned for last week, but, logistics just didn't work out that way, so we apologize for not doing one last week. But we're doing one today, and we're going to bring you a really special show for you today. Because we have with us a very special guest by the name of Elka, is it Zwick? Is that how
Yeah.
Zwick. And she wants to do something that would be very important for the men's movement, which is to open up a domestic violence shelter. Would you care to say a few words, Elka?
It would be located in St. Petersburg, Florida, and it would be solely for battered men and their children. I have a master's degree in human services with a specialization in nonprofit management, and I almost have a master's degree in criminal justice. I spent 8 years as an advocate on the domestic abuse helpline for men and women, and I think this gives me a background to get this started.
Well, yeah, it was one of the first things that impressed me about you is like your educational background, because a lot of people I hear that state that they want to start something like this is more of like, a one-day dream if they won the lottery.
Right.
But for you, it's like you seem to have a lot of prerequisite training, at least from an academic sense, of what it would take to really run this.
Right.
So how many years have you spent in college, if I may ask?
Oh, geez. You could call me a professional student, and now I'm trying to look for work. For me, it's hard finding full-time employment. It doesn't help any that I have a disability, and sometimes I go into job interviews, and I have the sense that employers can sense that I'm different. It's
Well,
my disability. It's similar to autism and Asperger's, but it's not it. It's different. But I do notice some of these symptoms in myself. So I'm intelligent, I'm capable, and I want to get this done.
Hell yeah.
What?
I said hell yeah.
yeah, it desperately does need to be done, and it's like we've had people in the past try, and I think Earl Silverman actually got one going, and then it kind of had to close, and unfortunately he committed suicide because of all the harassment he got from.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess my next question for you, kind of talking more about the shelter, but first it's like, as you stated, you're a professional student, and it seems
I
like today
was.
anyone who goes into college comes out a feminist. Were you a feminist?
I used to be back in the 70s, 1990s. I contributed to the feminist majority a few times, and once even now. But I just noticed that it was how some of the vile things they'd say, and you listen to what they have to say, and they're male bashing. If a man were to say the same things about women, they'd be called a chauvinist, and that's a form of supremacy. And feminism is supposed to be about equality, not supremacy. So it's incongruent.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
Well, so would you say that feminism has always been like that, or has it changed since the 1990s?
oh, geez. I think it's become just so way out. It's how can a human being feel and say such?
Yeah, that's how I've always felt about feminism. Is if it's
Yeah,
really a movement about equality and all of that, why do they spend so much of their time trying to dismiss men, trying to
right,
insult men in every chance they get? It's like they're always saying like they want men to express their emotions, but the moment they do, they start with the drinking from a male's tear mug.
Yeah.
Like they're getting what they want, and then they're using it as a way to attack men.
right. Yeah, it's I'm trying to think of maybe a cartoon or something that says that. It's I came across an article in one of the an article, and it's an academic article, and it found that even way back in the 1940s, there was more. Oh, Andy Capp. Do you remember Andy Capp? And his wife would clobber him with her purse or something like that. Do you remember that?
I think that was before my time. I don't remember that.
It was about a Cockney man in the west end, the east end of London, and when she'd get upset, she'd whack him one with her purse, and to me that's or Punch and Judy is another one, and this article it examined that even way back in the 1940s, it was far more acceptable for a woman to beat up on a man than it was for a man to beat up on a woman, and so even way back then there was this attitude.
Well, I was watching Futurama last night, which I pretty much do every night, and I was noticing the character Mom, and one of her traits is that she likes to slap her three sons a lot. And it's played for laughs, but imagine if the situation was reversed. A man
Right,
was slapping his three
right,
daughters all the time. People would
right.
be furious.
Oh yeah, I sometimes what I do is I get on Facebook and I make comments and say, hey, this stuff is if a woman were to say that or if a man were to say this about a woman, and some people get it, and then others I get comments, oh, this is just for comedy, and I'd be like, you idiot, don't you? They don't seem to understand the.
Well, it's kind of like the hashtag kill all men. And the sad thing is with that is even Time magazine had an article that said kill all men was just a joke and there's no such thing as misandry. But
Time, dude?
yeah,
What?
Time magazine had an entire article about how there was no such thing as misandry and that but there was such thing as misogyny and
Oh yeah.
misandry is just a joke form of misogyny to show how bad misogyny is.
Oh, that's gross. That sounds like something Amy Schumer would say.
He's an idiot.
Oh, God. I guess they'll just let anyone work for Time now.
Well, hey, they named Anita Sarkeesian one of the most 100 important people of 2015, so
Ugh.
Hmm? What?
they named Anita Sarkeesian one of the 100 most important people of 2015.
If she's so important, how is it I've never heard of her?
Be glad you haven't. Well, here's a real basic understanding of Anita Sarkeesian. She started a Kickstarter to create a series about the tropes of how women are used in video games. And she raised $160,000. And in the 4 years since that time, she has not completed the videos that she promised, but has recently did another Kickstarter wanting to do videos on 5 important women in history and raise $200,000.
I think that's called fraud.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But the feminists keep funding her
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, no feminist will speak out against another feminist
Wow.
unless you're Christina Hoff Sommers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some of her videos, and she's a critical thinker.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Who's that other lady? Older lady.
Kathy
I
Young.
can't remember what her YouTube channel is called, but she has like glasses, longer, gray hair. She's kind of like
Oh, Janice
Christina Hoff
Fiamingo.
Sommers, but what was that?
Janice Fiamingo.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but
She's
she's
pretty
not a
cool.
feminist though. She's a men's rights activist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd only watched a couple things like about her, so a couple of her videos. Snake's trying to steal my shirt.
Well, Snake, try to tug a little bit harder. I'm just.
Hey.
So let's go back to talking about the shelters. Not that I don't mind having all of these other conversations, but I do want people to really hear about this.
Right.
So, what are your goals with this shelter?
Okay, first off, the shelter what would be a few years later, but I want to start by providing services over the internet, so that battered men in the Australian outback or the middle of Alaska or out in the sticks in Texas or wherever it is, wherever they need services, that they can get counseling and therapy. Those are two ideas I have so far. I was thinking of providing safe homes, but I was speaking to someone who runs a shelter. This was the one in, I think, the Family Place, or was it Arkansas? And she advised against it. She said that it's problematic. So, but maybe if I work out the kinks and think things through and ask other people for advice, maybe these kinks can be ironed out.
I really like the first idea that you mentioned of having, something where people can call into, because a lot of what I see for domestic violence phone numbers is like for women, it's like if you're being abused, call in, and then for men, it's like if you're going to be abusive, call in. And there's horror stories of men calling into these kind of phone numbers, and they're like, hey, I'm being domestically abused, and it's like, well, we're going to send you over to talk to a counselor for how to control your anger.
Right. Well, I spoke with her name is Hillary Madsen, and she's a social worker in Utah, and she loves the idea. And then John Amell in San Rafael, California, he agreed also to be on my he even agreed to be on my board of directors.
So you have spoken to a lot of different people about this idea.
Yes, I've Carol Crapson of the Valley Oasis. Not only does she agree to be on my board of directors, she even what is it? Oh, the electricity. She even suggested being on the advisory council.
Now, are these people aware of what kind of backlash will happen if this project goes forward, that the feminists would want to try to close this down?
I'd imagine. I mean, they work with battered men, and Carol Crabson, she was among the first in the country to have a unit for battered men. And I'm sure she spoke with, was it Carol Ensign, or was it Patricia Overberg? I think it was Patricia who got death threats. So I'm sure she's quite familiar. And John and Mel, he works with battered men, so I'm sure he understands the sentiment.
And having been a feminist yourself, and
Yeah.
now looking at it at trying to open up a shelter, what are your thoughts to why feminists are so threatened by a male shelter?
Because they likely perceive me as dipping into the $1 billion pie that is VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act. And the way that I understand it is a VAWA. It'll fund programs for women. It'll fund programs for men and women, but it will not fund programs solely for men. And probably the way it is that with budgets that you have, you can't expand it, so they don't want their what do you call it? They don't want the program to take away from their funds.
No, certainly. And at the end of the day, this really becomes all about the money and not really
Right.
about helping the people.
Hmm.
Vanessa, do you have any questions?
um, I have a lot of questions, so I don't, I don't really know what to start with. Um, I mean, what are some ideas that you've had? Like, have you actually started looking for places to do this, or is it kind of like an idea so far?
Um, I've been getting ideas about how much it would cost for a facility. Um, I believe her name is Patty Duncan over at her family place, and she said that it would cost about $350,000 to $500,000 just to have three staff members, rent, food, and salaries. So it'd be salaries for 3 staff members, rent, and food.
Hmm.
That's upwards to $500,000, and then we need to get and to buy property. That alone, you'd have to have a capital campaign, so that's an additional what's the word, venture.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you could probably get some support from a Kickstarter if you had enough exposure. Have you tried doing any funding or anything yet?
No, the way that I understand it is you need to have a business plan that's ready to go, and my business plan isn't ready to go. I'm still
Yeah.
working on it, and what I'm looking for is a budget that fits with um, um, from a small homeless shelter, and I can't find one. I even asked. He's a battered man. He's a pastor up in Michigan for help, and he tried to find one, and it's. But if maybe your listeners, maybe they'd have access to such a facility, just something small, something of about maybe 5 families, and I can use that and go from there.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, you've definitely gotten a lot farther than I have because I've just, come up with a few ideas. But that's pretty interesting.
If you want, I can send you what I have, and you can take a look at it. What I've done is I have looked at things like I've gone onto websites for shelters, and I look at their newsletters, and I see where they mention where they got their funding from. Things like corporations and foundations, and then I look them up, and hopefully it doesn't mention things like, oh, sorry, we don't accept if you discriminate. So okay, if they discriminate, sorry, I have to eliminate that one. Try and go further. And for a while, I was doing that for about 10 to 12 hours a day, and I'd be up until 3 in the morning looking up um, um, what's the word? Sponsors,
Yeah.
sponsors, donors.
Hmm. Well, that's awesome that you've done so much research about it.
Also, another way is Facebook. You can go over the course of a year, and sometimes it says, "Oh, thank you, Acme Foundation." You use
Hmm.
Facebook, and also that. So right now, what I'm doing is that I went off into another aspect of looking up sexual assault centers. So that's an added um, not population aspect that I could use.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
Uh,
uh,
Vanessa, what are some of the ideas that you've come up with? Or
well, basically the same principles, but like uh, I kind of want to like add my art and music into it, just because like those are my passions, and that's something that I'd really enjoy doing. So I'd like to offer therapy and housing and food and all that, but also have like music and art therapy, probably other things, depending on what someone enjoys doing. But I think that having like people express themselves through art can be really, just helpful to their situation, or how they feel about it. Can I've done some research on how like art and music can improve mood and uh, all that. So and I'd love to have like a gallery full of uh, people's art next to their story, if they were willing to share it, and then use that as another outlet to bring in funding, like for our sponsors. And Sync is going a little crazy down here. But yeah, I came up with that like in my senior year of high school, but then I didn't really know how to even start anything like that. So I kind of went and just took a year off to try and figure out what I wanted to do. But
and what are your thoughts on that, Elka? What she was talking about?
I think art therapy is highly and it's highly applicable. You can even include maybe dance therapy. There's bibliotherapy. That's another one. Whatever means people want to express themselves.
yeah, yeah, that would be awesome.
I
And
Maybe maybe something along the lines of maybe I don't know whether a theater. It's a little far off.
Theater?
A theater. I was thinking
Yeah.
maybe an actor's troupe.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I actually like this idea a lot, and the reason why is that as men, we're often encouraged not to express ourselves, and
Right.
it's mostly done by women. Women
Right.
don't really want men to express themselves. They just want them to go out and work and be the tough man. And the unfortunate thing that happens with a lot of men, especially getting into domestic violence situations where they're the victim,
Right.
is that they base their entire identity on the approval of a woman. And I think one of the things that would need to happen in an abuse shelter for domestic violence or sexual assault or what have you is to somewhere along the line teach men that you need to identify your life by your means and not by what some woman thinks of you. And it's been a hard lesson for me to learn. I used to only date women who were interested in me. That, that beautiful woman off on the distance, she wouldn't be interested in me, so I would never try. Oh, this woman that I barely like is interested in me, well, that's all I deserve, so, and always ended in bad situations. And it took me a very long time to learn that I shouldn't judge myself by the approval of a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everybody needs to learn that eventually, but men especially, just because they know, women are pretty much always told that, they shouldn't care what anyone thinks. A lot of them don't really listen, but they continue to say, like, men are all shitty and all this, but then men, besides MGTOW, they keep trying, whether or not, the woman really truly cares about them or not, really. I mean, it's rare that you find compatible relationships when, a lot of women are out for, money and drama and all that shit. I mean, I'm rambling, but I think you get my point.
Yeah. It's also I had a class in the trauma intervention from the perspective of social work, and one thing that I learned is that no matter what form of expression you use, that's how you relieve the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. If someone likes to mold clay, that's fine. Or if someone likes to draw, that's okay too. But what's important is to get the get the feelings out, work with them, and get them. And it go.
I understand what you're trying to say, and yeah, that's art is a very, very powerful thing. And my art of choice is writing, and what I can do with the English language is astounding, to say the least. Now, if I was good at grammar, I would be amazing, but that's it's what is needed, and it's like in some ways it's being taken away from men. I mean, in schools, Christina Hoff Sommers wrote The War on Boys, and in there she mentions it's like they're taking away recess, they're taking away tag. Boys especially were very, well, not we because I'm not a boy, but as a boy, I was a very active child. I wanted to run around. I wanted to throw the ball. I wanted to tackle other boys because, we just wanted to roughhouse. I mean, on the weekends, me and my brother would get into wrestling matches. I mean, we were very active. And yet now there's this culture that wants to curtail that anything that is even remote possible that you could get a skin knee is now banned from school.
Well, that's partly because of the lawsuits. People are afraid of the injuries, and it's also that with like broken legs, it's who's going to pay for it. I mean, the health insurance might not pay for it, so that might be part of it. Things like they're with this, but that's going off on a tangent. That's really not directly related. Anyway,
No,
back
it's
to
not banned.
task. Back to work. Okay.
Okay, so what stage are you at right now in trying to get this idea off the ground?
I'm working on my business plan and looking for funding and trying to get that done. That's if I can get past my business plan, I can move and start things like Kickstarter and approaching for grants. And so this is the biggest holdup. I also need help with things like looking for people to help me. I realize that I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn. Um, for my board of directors, I went out and looked for some of the brightest in the field, such as John Amell, who worked with battered men, Carol Crabson. I'm still looking for a doctor, a doctor or somebody who works in the field of public health to be on my board. So.
Okay, and you mentioned that you need help, like you need some
Right.
volunteers. What are some of the things that you would want to ask for help on? Maybe there might be some people out there who want to volunteer to help you. What are some things they can help you with?
Something like grant writing. Um,
So grant writing, how about business plan? Do you need
yeah, helping to write my business plan. I can email it to you, and you can see at what stage I'm at. Um, I have some ideas along the lines of foundations. There's the I think it's Richard Draper Kaplan. They offer $300,000 for the first 3 years, but they want to do is they put someone from their organization on the board of directors to oversee the execution, so they're sure that it's a successful plan, and it comes so closely to what I'm looking for. And then there are other organizations such as um, what's it called?
So you're
What?
mentioning the board of directors and all of that, and I was wondering
Right.
if you, one person that's really famous in our movement is Erin Pizzi, or Pizze. I lost
Yes,
that.
yes. Erin, I contacted her, I believe it was last year, and she's willing to be a matron. And she, because of the, she's in England, and with the distance, it would be hard. But she's willing to lend her name to my shelter. Erin Fizzy, um, Richard Davis. He was a police lieutenant. Who experienced domestic violence as a youth and as a battered man. Um, Davis. Um,
So if you were able to open up a shelter, or if you or for this entire project? Do you have a name that you want to use, or?
I was thinking of honoring or putting it in Earl Silverman's name, of remembering him, something along the lines of Earl's house or Earl's place or Earl something or another. I want to remember him.
Okay, well, as you and me have kind of discussed, we've kind of batted around a lot of ideas, but I kind of want to direct this to the viewers now, or the people who are viewing now or viewing it in the future. What ideas do you have on what the name could be? I mean, definitely honoring Earl Silverman, who did try to start a shelter up in Canada, who also committed suicide, which is very unfortunate. I mean, I think that's a fantastic idea, because he he really got far with his idea, and it's unfortunate that it didn't happen. And we need to honor good men like that, and I think it's such a great thing you want to honor him. But I want to throw it out to the viewers. What do you think would be a good name? Do you think like Earl's House or Earl's Place or Earl Silverman Foundation? I throw it to you. What do you think a good name would be? And there's probably a good chance that we'll look at that and say, oh yeah, a lot of people are saying this, or a lot of people like this one. So, this definitely is a project that Elka is working on, but this is not something she can do herself. This is something that the community needs to help build her up, because she is only one woman, and while she might have the academic background in how to treat men and how to run a nonprofit, it's just like getting the money together and getting all the resources together. That's like the work of 10 people right there. So
I have the passion. It's just I need a lot of help, and I'm inexperienced. So but I have the drive. Way back when I started my master's, it was back in 2006, I believe. Even back then, I wanted to open up a shelter, and I take my assignments and I gear them to the shelter. So it's even way back then. But I'd like to ask the viewers what features would they like to have that I haven't thought about.
yeah, definitely. Let's make this a community-wide thing. I mean, whether you're MGTOW or you're a men's rights activist, even if you're a feminist and think that there needs to be one, this is something we all need to come together on, because we need more of these. I mean, there are studies out there that indicate that domestic violence happens just as much to men as it does to women, and yet it's laughed about.
Dude, about 10 years ago, I went out to a conference for domestic violence for an organization that's one of their causes. And afterwards, at the end, we went out, and this was in Washington, D.C., so we went out to go lobby three congressmen. So I got up. I waited for them to finish what they had to say, and I was quiet. And so I got up, and I said, well, 40% is almost half, right? I'm not the best at math, but it presents a mental picture. So I said, half of domestic violence victims are men. There was an uproar. It was so loud, and they started to get up, and they were leaving me. We went over to the commissary. It was lunchtime. and one woman said, "Oh, we need to leave. We need to go." There was plenty of time, but I got up and followed them over, and I found where they were, and it was still had another half an hour or whatever it was until we were supposed to meet. So okay, so we met with another congressman. So they abandoned me to go find my own taxi to 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 go over to the next congressman, and then I had to go find another taxi, and then it was time to go to the airport. So they do not um, they don't tolerate opposition.
Yeah, I just saw a recent thing on Facebook, a newspaper article that says that 1 in 4 women are homeless. And it's like, wow, you're really painting that narrative on thick.
Hmm.
Because what's the other 3?
Right.
Men.
Yeah.
But we don't want to talk about the men. We just
Right.
want to talk about the women and how they're disadvantaged
Mhm.
in society. So, and
Yeah.
it's like oppression Olympics. It's like the sport of choice is how can we ignore men and their suffering to make women seem worse?
Well, did you also see? I think it was it Slate magazine that said that I think it's about half of sexual assault victims are men and boys.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I don't know if I saw that but specifically, but I have seen that statistic before.
Okay. I can send you it. I have to track it down. I can send you the link. Then you can quote it.
Yeah, actually, I would like that because I am kind of working on a project gathering all sorts of those stats together.
Okay.
So yeah, I would love that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's it's just so amazing that, and it's like what you said right at the beginning, that feminism is not about equality; it's about supremacy.
Great.
And the best way they can do that is to take all of the men's suffering of the world and say that it doesn't exist, or that if it does exist, it's not as bad as what happens to women. And you know what? Women do suffer in this society, but so do men for the exact same reasons. Anything bad that happens to a woman also generally happens to a man.
Great.
And yet, feminists would try to convince us that it's not true. And, if feminists like Christina Hoff Sommers does, actually acknowledge that yes, these things are real, these things are happening.
And then she's laughed at.
Yeah, she is definitely laughed at. And feminists call her not a real feminist, even though
Great.
she was a feminist long before any of these feminists today were born. And I have a lot of respect for Christina Hoff Sommers. I don't agree with everything she says, but I don't need to. As long as I respect her, that's the most important thing. And
Mhm.
I wish there were more feminists like her, in all honesty,
She's
because
a
then
critical thinker.
feminism wouldn't be bad.
She's a critical thinker.
Yeah. So Vanessa seems to be MIA right now. Hopefully she's alive and the snake didn't get to her.
It's a
Um,
small snake.
so I really like to have people like Elka on my channel. I really thank you for being on this channel today.
Mhm.
Because yeah, we really need this to happen, and not just in Florida, but we need a men's shelter in every major metropolitan city, in the United States, in every state in the United States, and Canada, and the UK, and Australia. We need more out there, and yet until we break this myth that men do not suffer or that men are the cause. Basically, the Duluth model. We have to destroy the Duluth model.
I read that Pence, before she died, she even had doubts about it, and I tried to look it up, and I'm sorry that I didn't archive it, collect the article, but from what I remember reading, even she had doubts about her own model, and I don't know where to find it. I typed in to Google it, doubts and Pence, and it doesn't come up.
Yeah, there's a lot of suggestion that Google has turned social justice warrior. We were mentioning Anita Sarkeesian, and if you try to type in Anita Sarkeesian liar, nothing comes up. Well, nothing. When you type into the search bar, sometimes it has a suggestion down below to try to guess what it is that you mean.
Yeah.
And it's based on common searches. If you go to Yahoo and you type in Anita Sarkeesian LI, it'll have a list that includes liar, lying, stuff like that. Google doesn't.
Wow. I learned something. I have to use another search engine.
Yeah, Google
I use goodsearch.com because that way it contributes to the charity I like.
Oh, that's good.
So that's why I use it.
Yeah, so it's hard for me not to use Google. I just know not to rely on the suggestions it has, because that has, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe some of the search results themselves on Google are being changed to fit a narrative. So I guess that means that whenever I search for something, I should also search other search engines as well and not rely on one, which makes me really sad because I like Google.
Yeah.
Efficient, it's clean, it's just like a blank page with the word Google in a search box. I don't need anything else. But that is what it is, so nothing I can do about it. I don't even know the point I was making. But yes, we need a lot more of this. And, I hope that in 30 years, 50 years' time, we look back at Elka as a pioneer to what our world needs, because our world is in serious trouble.
Thank you. Did you know that there's this little town in Switzerland? They started up a shelter for battered men, and when I learned about it just a few months ago, I thought, oh, this is recently. And then I looked at it I think 2 weeks ago, and I saw the article was from 2009.
Hmm. Do you know if it's still open?
I don't know. Oh, okay. I don't know. I'd have to look. I could call them and ask. I speak German, but I don't speak Swiss German, so it gets a little hard to understand.
Well, certainly so. Sato Chris from the chat was asking the statistic: 1 in 4 women are homeless, which means 3 in 4 men are homeless.
Right.
Just such a dishonest tactic.
Well, of course.
Kajan Kashan. One day people will care about their men. It's going to require a change in the heart of society, however. Change on this level never comes easily or quickly. Keep fighting. It's worth the effort.
Mm-hmm. Sorry for my absence. I had my mother called, but I returned.
So we're going to stay on for a couple more minutes. If anyone in the chat wants to make any comments for Elka, ask her any questions, or if you have any ideas of what you would like to see Elka try to do with her shelter idea, her hotline idea, trying to get safe housing, stuff like that, just lay it on us, because I'm sure Elka would love to talk about it more. And I definitely encourage anyone who's watching, please share this video out. Let people know the name Elka Zwick.
I've heard that battered men, they don't want a shelter, but I'd like to be able to back up my statement that yes, they do. And I'd like your viewers to comment and say how much they see it as important. I mean, this is critical to my business plan. I contacted a researcher recently to be on my board of directors, and she commented that I need to get more in the way of anecdotes to back up what I'm saying. It's more than just mere statistics.
It might be one of the few times where having anecdotes is just as important as the statistics themselves.
Right.
Because usually when we have debates with feminists and all of that, we rely on statistical information to back things up. But in this case, you know, wanting to start up a shelter, we need more than just numbers. We need to put a face to it. We need to open up our hearts to it and understand that men suffer just as much as women do. Not more, not less, just as much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a client here in the county. He wasn't homeless at the time, but now well, his kids were taken away from him. His problem is that housing was unstable, and I can't comment a whole lot on it because the case is under appeal. But I get to see the dirty tricks that go on as a result.
Well, I don't remember what I was watching. I think it was a video on YouTube where a woman was talking about domestic violence for men and talking about how there are shelters in the UK for men. And I think there are a few, but not that many. But the problem is that they're not really being used. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but her argument was if there really was a problem, then these facilities would be overrun with men.
You have to think about it in terms of how much outreach are they doing. Are they close to the men's place of employment? From what I've heard is that they need to be close to their work. I had a caller once. This was in a major metropolitan area, and he was a medical resident. And I said, here, go to this shelter. They'll take you. And he said, but it's too far. And this is a major metropolitan area where it takes 2 or 3 hours to get across. And so evidently he couldn't go. He wanted to go, but he couldn't because of the distance. And I was thinking to myself, here's a metropolitan area where women's shelters, if you want to call them that, are, well, quite literally down the block. And they're very likely not to take him. So this is why we need to have shelters that are far more accessible to men and their children. And we can't just have it to age 14. We need to have it to age 18. We also need to include things like if they have dependents with them. Sometimes they might stay behind because their parents might be disabled and they'd be subjected to abuse by the abuser.
So more from our chat, and I thank everyone for participating in our chat. Hello to you, Warped Reflection. Cajun Cashwan, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, battered men need a place where they can talk to others and feel as if what happened to them is more than just you can't handle your woman. And there
I've,
is that stereotype that it's like, if you're in an abusive relationship with a woman is abusing you, you're not a real man. And yet, if you try to fight back, you can go to jail. And it's like a no-win scenario for men.
There was, I believe it was Patsy Duncan over at a family place, or else it was the one in Arkansas, was saying that men need to have a place of their own because they don't. Some of them don't want to be around women. And when you go to these shelters, what do you see? You see women all over the place, not only as clients but as staff. I mean, what do you do then?
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
And, women come into these places, and the last thing they want to see is men. They're
That's what she
comforted by the
said.
fact that there are a lot of women around.
That's what she said. She said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Sato Chris responds, I don't know, Cajun. Do men feel like talking to others or doing something to help cope? And Cajun uses the example of Alcoholics Anonymous, that, it takes time and usually a few cups of coffee. But men don't emotionally trust easily, as sometimes it takes weeks or months before a man is willing to talk about the worst things in their life.
Well, I remember many years ago. This must have been 25 years ago. I was in a group I attended, and the man he was talking about his problems at home, but he was never explicit. And now I look back at it, and I kind of wonder. He didn't strike me as a controlling sort or anything like that. So I have a feeling that he was being victimized, and the kids at home too. But it's so I do. What's the word I want to use? Not sympathize. I do understand. Sato Chris's thinking.
Yeah, the thing is that men are, in a very complex way, men are controlled by women. I mean, pretty much right from going to the first day of school, we want to be liked by women, and we learn what it is that women like, or women, not girls, what they like and what they don't like, and try to cater to that. And over time, we are just, we try to be exactly what they want, and in the end, it turns out they don't want that. And it's like, oh great, we're screwed. We put all of our emotional investment into this idea of what it is that women want. They don't want a man who cries. They don't want, a man with emotions. And it's like when they deal with like their first divorce or even their first breakup, they don't know how to handle it because we don't teach boys how to handle their emotions. We teach boys just walk it off, which ordinarily is fine, to get on with your life, but there does need to be some outreach to men that, there are other ways to express yourself, like art.
Well, it's been proposed that suicide among men is very high among divorcees for this very reason, and like I'm helping these. I suggested to someone I went to graduate school. He's a professor in Texas. I said, hey, do you want to study this area? And I said, why don't we study cops as battered men? He said, wow, yeah. because he knows of someone who was in a relationship with his wife that was controlling. So we're trying that, and I do see that when these when their wives put them in situations that force them to use their service weapon. And I spoke with an advocate who does a lot of work in um, officer-involved domestic violence. She told me that they do this. So that's where I got the idea for that. Do I make sense? Sometimes I'm good at confusing people.
I understand, and hopefully other people understand as well, but I think you're coming along okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you sometimes trail off, but I mean, I do too, so, I can't complain. Sometimes I get lost in my thought, and I'm like, what the hell was I talking about?
Did you see the comment Seder Chris left about men's shelters that have something, it says for men to do something physical that helps psychologically and apparently has good success?
I'm not familiar with literature. What I had was a class, and it's something that I just remembered. It stuck with me. But I could look it up if they want. That's no problem.
Well, actually,
I've never heard of that before.
That's a pretty good idea. I mean, like starting a football league, or even a baseball team, or like say, hey, let's go build a house, and we get a bunch of men together. Men like working with their hands. Men like, physically exerting themselves. And while the art idea is fantastic, don't get me wrong, us men, it's like, with all the difficulties I have, one of the greatest joys I have right now is like every day I go out to the grill and put hot dogs on the grill. It seems so simple, yet it was something missing from my life, and I just like the feeling of grilling. I mean, it's the most weirdest thing, but it's just like I feel more of a man turning on the propane tank, setting a fire, and just grilling. I mean, us men, we like to do manly things, and maybe with a shelter, if one ever gets off the ground, which I really, really hope it does, something physical can be there for men to also express themselves, to get their aggression out.
Well, one of the things you want to do after an upsetting event is to expend energy, and things like play basketball or something that maybe like sports. So along that line. But I think that you did touch on it with your football team.
Yeah. I think that would be a really good idea. It's just, something physical to get them in the open, out in the sun.
Even if you just had like a small like fenced-in area for them to go out and like play whatever fucking sport they want, that'd still be pretty cool.
Well, especially for children, also. I mean, your idea would include children to be with abused men, so they would definitely want to play outside. They would definitely want to have something to do, like a playground, and have the men build a playground, so their children.
That'd be cool.
So I think that when you first start up your idea, I think that one thing you could do to help with things is like men not only get to stay there, but they can also help improve the thing. Because that's one thing that I think men like to do is, use their blood, sweat, and tears to help people out. It's just most of the time in this society, we're convinced that the only way you can help someone out is through money. And if you have no money, you can't do anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So a couple more comments from our chat. So Warped Reflection talked about that there was an Aussie guy and the honey badgers, who was also talking about men's shelters, but no word yet on what the person's name was. But hopefully the honey badgers hear about you and want you on their channel. So.
Is he talking about me?
No, because they're mentioning an Aussie guy.
Oh, Australian. Okay.
An Australian guy, yeah. So anyone out there, if you want the honey badgers to feature Elka, just start tweeting them, hey, get Elka on your channel. So
That'd be great.
yeah, the more exposure we get her, the better. So like, go to Sargon of Akkad, Thunderfoot. Actually, I don't think that's Thunderfoot's alley, but Sargon of Akkad, Bearing, Sugar Tits, Liberal Lunacy. Just start tweeting them. Say, hey, put Elka on your channel. And I'm serious, because we really need to get her a lot of exposure. I really believe in what she's doing.
Me too.
So Cajun says it's hard to watch a man cry at 3 a.m. and know you can't make it any better. It's worse hearing about a man killing himself weekly.
Well, one thing that I learned well as an advocate is that just listening to them, or even stroking their hair or whatever, that's a lot. It helps them feel better. I mean.
No, you're definitely right. I mean, I definitely have my trouble in this area because of my disability. I've been close to suicide many times.
Yeah.
I've even tried calling a suicide hotline, and they're first off, I got transferred around 3 times, but
Wow.
the response was, "We'll have someone call you. Is there anything else you need?" And I'm like, "This is a suicide hotline, right?" They're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "I guess not." They didn't try to talk to me. They didn't try to lie to me.
They didn't ask whether it's like imminent. I did to ask the degree. I mean, I would have at least asked whether this was just ideation or what. I mean, just.
No, they just like collected my information, said they'll have a counselor call me in a few days, which I never got the call, and then. Said, is there anything else you need? And it's like, I called a suicide hotline because I'm thinking about killing myself right now. I think there's a reason why, it's like, and I really wondered if I was a woman, if the response would have been different.
Probably. Was this an organization that we've heard of?
I called the national hotline, whatever national suicide hotline number is.
Was this 1-800-273-TALK?
I think so. I don't really remember. It's been a long time, but it's been about 2 years, and for me, a month is a long time. But, it's whenever I try to talk to other people, when I get that close, I don't blame them for not knowing what to say.
Yeah.
And, bless their hearts that they want to try, but we do need more services out there to help men. Right. Because a lot of times what I hear is like, wow, I really don't know what to say for you. And it's like, that's the worst thing to tell a person who wants to commit suicide. Because if they hear, hey, there's nothing I can say to you, that means that they should go ahead and do it.
Sometimes I'm at a loss for what to say too, but one thing that I learned from crisis intervention is that you try to like paraphrase what they said, so that they realize that you heard them.
Oh yeah.
That it passed the cranium. It sunk in.
Yeah, no, that definitely helps, because the most important thing, especially for a man, is to feel like someone's actually listening to them. Someone, can actually sympathize for what they're going through. And the other thing is they need to know that they're not alone.
Mm.
Mhm.
So let's take a couple of more things from chat. Um, so Seda Christ, it's sort of an unfortunate in a way because the men's shelters are used to make things like benches or things for the community instead of individual endeavors.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
what the
don't understand.
reference to.
He was talking about the shelters.
Well, is this like shelters in like the UK or Australia? Because there really aren't any shelters in the
I
US.
don't know.
Still, I think was it Scotland? I think Scotland opened up something recently, but I don't know whether it's solely for men, but I can look into it. I have their email, so I can ask them. So
I do warped reflection. I do feel sorry for men. You lot can't have anything for yourself without women wanting in on it. And there's a lot of truth in that. And that's, I don't think, is a reflection on you, Elka, but more of like, if, a man wants to have, like, what's a good example of that? Like, if a guy wants to go out to a bar, then, like, his, well, no, that's not really a good example. I can't think of a good example. I've seen that before where, a man wants something and then suddenly a woman wants it and then a man's no longer allowed to have it because it now belongs to a woman.
Mhm. Well, they did that with heels.
Yeah, I was thinking of pink shirts. That was a good example.
Yeah.
Pink boy's color.
what?
It used to be for baby boys. And then
Mhm.
the feminist movement decided to use pink as a representation of women. And then no longer became a boy's color, it became a girl's color.
That well, one of the things that I put on these websites when I comments that how can you do outreach to battered men when these websites have faces of women, flowers, pink and purple? I mean, to me it says, well, we'll take your call, but maybe. I mean, there's nothing welcoming to it, and but if you have some place that specifically says battered men, they're gonna call. They're gonna feel that it's for them.
Yeah, and it seems like also that, if men are to get help in this world, they basically have to be a woman. They have to be effeminate. They have to no longer have their toxic masculinity, which is such a bullshit term. They have to let go of everything that makes them a man, and then a woman might give a shit. But he also has to be good looking.
True.
So let's go ahead and wrap up. Elka, do you want to leave us with any final thoughts?
Okay. For those of you who are listening and would like to volunteer, maybe have an idea as to how you can help me and to get in contact with me. I'm in the phone book. I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida, and there's probably only one Elka Zwick on this whole planet. I doubt that you can miss me. Um, how else can you contact me? I think that my email address is also mentioned on LinkedIn.com, and you can and that's a hard way of doing it. My email address is A as in Apple, H as in Henry, A as in Apple, V as in Victor, A as in Apple, 65 at earthlink.net.
Great.
So I'd really appreciate anybody's help. Just give me a holler. I'm open to ideas on how you can help me, ideas for the shelter, ideas for the facility.
Grant writing, business plan writing.
Yes, that's a big help. I can exchange what I have and show you what I have and you can critique it.
Okay. And Vanessa, do you have any final thoughts before we close today?
Well, I also like, any kind of advice or information about starting something like that. Plus, I'm sure that me and Elka will have some, interest or information to share with each other. But everyone can follow me on Twitter at Vanessa W Cheese, and I'm on YouTube, Modern Medusa, and then my Facebook page is Modern Medusa and Vanessa's Custom Art. So I'm on all that stuff.
How do you spell your name? WG's? How do you spell that?
Vanessa W Cheese, like Vanessa with cheese.
Cheese. Okay,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I thought it was GEEF. Last name. Okay.
All right, and of course, go ahead and subscribe down below, hit thumbs up, share this with as many people as we can, and more than the usual reasons why, but we need to get Elka out there, and we need to help her. And we need to help more people like her, because all we need is for one person to do it, which will then help the second person and the third person and the 25th person in doing this. We need this to be commonplace as
inspirational.
What's up?
To inspire other people to act.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wish I could do more, but I mean, as all of you know, I have a Patreon down below. Kind of ways segue into that, but I wish I could do more, but I mean, I myself need help for other reasons. But I want to. If anything, I want to be the first person to say, "Hey, look at Elka. She's doing something important." And I hope other people out there will want to put her on her channels. And I'm serious, Bug the honey badgers, bug Sargon, let's get her face on as many places as possible, because she's not just someone with an idea of, it'd be cool if we had a men's shelter. She is someone who's done the research. She has the education. She has talked to a lot of important people that can help make this happen once, the foundation is set. Once there's a foundation and something to build on, there's a lot of people who will come and help out, but we need to help her get there. And that's like the most important thing right now, is just like, let's build a foundation. So I invite everyone out there, spread the name, spread the news. Leave a comment down below if you have ideas for what she can do, if you have ideas for the name that she should use, and what domain name she might want to get for that as well. And then we can help her build a website, we can help her do this and that, and this needs to be the movement helping the movement. Because we have a place for men to go when they are victims of violence, I think the world will be a better place.
Nat Cat, you asked me something that about how viewers can help me. I cannot afford to file for 501c3 status, and I also need to raise the money for a website. So filing for 501c3 status is like a few $100s, I think like $500. And then a website, if I know of someone who could design it for me, because they realize it's a net nonprofit status, it would be also a few $100s. This would be about $1,000 if they could put forward. That's how they could help. It doesn't have to be as a lump sum, but just to what do you call it? Maybe $10 here and there.
Mhm.
So I leave it now to all of you out there, and let's make this happen. And I'm going to go ahead and close it off today. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you for everyone in the chat. And should see you next weekend. We will have a special Father's Day episode. Anyways, this is Dick.
Indeed.
And we're signing off.